Hello and welcome to our newest podcast for TeenPOD. Today we have a very special guest. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. So Hannah, can you just share a little bit about yourself? I know you're a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a young adult.
Yes, ma'am.
21, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I have heard from my good friend who was actually your counselor, right?
Yes, she was.
And she wanted you to come on, and basically, as you know, like, this is a podcast primarily to promote inspiration and motivation to teenagers.
Yeah.
And so basically, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
And we'll start at, your teen adolescent time.
Wild time.
Wild time.
Wild time.
So, Hannah, can you just kind of share a little bit about your story? I know that's really the main thing that we talked about, that you were open to share. Your story involves a lot during your teen years.
Yeah, for sure. Well, growing up, I grew up with two parents in addiction. So life growing up was a little bit different than other people's around me. Like, most of the kids had like the flashy outfits and stuff like that, and I was being made fun of because instead of my parents being there with me for stuff and being able to have all the new stuff, we didn't really have much because they're both in addiction. And growing up, my dad was in and out of jail for most of my life, so didn't really have a father figure there. But my grandparents are amazing. They took me in, helped raise me and everything when my mom and dad weren't around. And we moved to Alabama when I was turning 14. I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay. And so we moved here hoping for a new start and everything. And I fell in with a group of people I probably shouldn't have around my teenage years. I was just trying to find myself, I guess. And shortly after moving here, one of my good friends, we were at a hotel doing stuff we probably shouldn't have been doing, and he accidentally committed suicide playing with the gun in front of us, and that was really hard. So after that, instead of coping the healthy way that I should have, I fell into addiction and everything, per how I met Miss Melissa and Miss Carly too. I don't know if she's talked to you about Miss Carly. That was my probation officer. They're really good friends, so we were always together. And from my dad being out of my life, I was searching for love in a lot of the wrong places. So I thought I fell in love with this guy, and he was a lot older than me. No one really approved of it. And a lot of my trauma that I experienced my teenage years did spin off from him. When I was about 16, my dad committed suicide. He got arrested and he committed suicide while he was in jail. And so after that, I just kept following this destructive path, falling in with drugs to cope and everything. And Miss Melissa did step in. She sent me to a program, and after that I was doing good for a while. I came home, I was happy and everything.
So it's like a residential program?
Yeah, it was a residential program. I was there for about 4 or 5 months about. And then
Was it a good place?
Yeah, it was a really good place. I loved the people there. The staff was great, the counselors were great. But when you go in a program like that, it's really not going to help you unless you really want it to. Yeah. I did to a certain extent, but there was still a part of me just holding on to my destructive self and the path of just keep messing up and everything. And when I got out, I was good for about 2 months, and then that guy came back around. And
it's temptation,
boys as a teenager too. That was very hard, and so I fell right back into it. My grandmother passed away on my dad's side when I got out, and a lot of my life has just been
your grandmother, the one that was one of your primary
No, it was on my dad's side.
Oh, okay.
My grandma, my mom, my mom's mom and father was the one who took care of me.
But still, that's grief. That's loss.
Yeah, and so I just felt like I was cursed or something for the longest time because people around me just kept passing away and there was nothing I could do about it. So I kept doing drugs, doing things that I shouldn't be doing. And then when I turned, I think I was 17, Miss Carly and them stepped in again because my wild self was sneaking out the window at the middle of the night. And my grandparents realized that I was gone one morning when they tried to take me to school. So they took me to Miss Carly and Miss Melissa, and I tried to talk my way out of it. I was good with words back then, but wasn't slick enough for Miss Melissa or Miss Carly. So they sent me to another program, and this was in Montgomery, Alabama. I was there for about, I want to say almost a year. I was there for about a year.
Okay. What was that one called?
That one was called ROP, Rite of Passage. It was in around Mount Meigs and stuff.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
For girls?
Yeah, it was for girls.
And what was the first one? Yeah.
The first one was START. It was called the START program.
Okay. Was that in Alabama or?
That was in Alabama. It was in Fayetteville, Alabama.
Okay.
Far from here. Yeah.
Good to know, because honestly, there are people that are scared to go to residential because of bad things they hear about it. Not those places, but other places. So it's good to know, like, places that you can vet and say, like, no, they're legit.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, of course it's scary for anyone going there, like being away from your family and not being able to really talk to them when you want, because like when you're in those places, you only get to talk to them like sometimes once a week for like 15 minutes, and then once you earn privileges, you can do it for longer. But honestly, being there makes you realize how much you want to do better so you're not back in that situation, because it's hard being away from your family for sure, like for months on end. And some of those girls were there for like juvenile life, which is until you're 21, and it's scary, and it can be scary, especially being around a bunch of girls you don't know and all those hormones and everything going about. That's definitely hard.
Was that one of the hard things, was kind of interacting with other girls there?
Yeah, I was never good with making friends and stuff like that. But it's crazy because Miss Melissa and them always said that I was a leader, that I would just not even try to do it, just start leading a group of girls and stuff like that. But when I first got there, it was scary, and plus, like, there are fights and stuff like that, people trying to show how big and bad they are and everything. But once you get into actually trying to do the therapy and helping yourself and everything, you really, time flew by for me once I realized the importance of me being there, and what I needed to work on was me. So, and
did it get better with the other girls, like once you realized why you were really there and kind of leaning in to focus on the therapeutic piece?
Yeah, it got better with most of the girls. There were still some that just wanted to be the biggest, the baddest, people scared of them or whatever. But once you found like your group of people who really wanted to change and wanted to do better, that's when things started. Better. Yeah.
Cool. That's neat. Like kind of seeing the people that you can trust, essentially.
For sure. Because it's, like I said, it's really scary. It is. Like being in a program like that. The START program, that was more like a house type thing. It was more of a homey vibe. But the ROP program I went to felt like a jail. Like it was, you were locked in your rooms, you had to wear these uniforms, and you had a very strict schedule. So that can be scary to anyone for sure. And having those walls up with everything, it's hard being in a small room like that for so long.
So which one were both great for you, that you think, as far as the quality, or was one kind of preferred over the other?
I think the Rite of Passage was preferred for me, just because I'm so stubborn and hard-headed that, I mean, START's a great program, don't get me wrong, but I needed more of that strict...
That worked for you.
Yeah, that worked for me personally, because I was a wild child. I like to do what I want. I thought nobody could tell me different, but that program helped a lot, because sticking by that schedule and not falling from it, that
even though it was hard, it was good for you.
Cool.
Well, I appreciate you going into that a little bit, because you know, as a counselor, sometimes someone is in crisis, like you like
For
you
sure.
experienced, where going to see a counselor once a week is not going to cut it.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean?
No,
And they
it's
need to be
not.
plucked out of their environment and at a place where they can get rooted.
Because sometimes things, like staying where you are, nothing's going to change. Sometimes you have to be forced out of that situation to really see a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back to your story. So you get back.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened after the second program?
Okay, so after the second program, I did really good after that one.
Mm-hmm.
That was when I finally realized, okay, Hannah, you're 18 now. You gotta get it together. It's win it or lose it all.
Mm-hmm.
I still face some trials and stuff. Of course, it's hard, like especially being an addict and everything. But my mother got clean, so that helped a lot. She's been clean for 4 years now, and I'm very, very proud of her. She's doing really good. She is the best grandmother to my daughter. Like, she heals a little bit of the little girl in me every day by being so good with my little one.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So she was able to then show up more in your life once she got clean.
Yeah, and at first, I'm not gonna lie, I did try to push it away. Didn't want to accept it because I'm like, okay, I'm 18 now. Where were you when I really needed you? But we just kept working at it. We just kept trying. We would talk a lot, and then we finally came to a good place. And at first, like, I just kept doubting, okay, when is she going to mess up again? I don't think this is going to be forever, because she was an addict for over 21 years, and she did IV use. And a lot of people don't come back from that.
Heroin?
She was just doing heroin, and that's a hard drug to get off of, especially when they do it IV. So
yeah,
I'm really proud of her. She's doing really good.
She survived.
She survived. She sure did. She's a fighter like me.
Wow.
We're both Leos.
Wow, that's amazing. And like, that is very raw and emotionally too. Like you had to at some point or another let go and allow her back in your life, despite the risk.
For sure, it was.
For trust,
It was really hard because she's done it before. Like, she's gotten clean before and everything, but never lasted as long as this one did.
Yeah.
And I could tell something was different once I really allowed myself to talk to her, because she went to a program here in Mobile. I think it's called the Home of Grace, and it was more of a Christian-based center, and I think that's what helped her out a lot.
Wow.
And it was like getting to learn a different her, because I'd never been around her clean and sober, and me clean and sober, so it was hard.
Wow.
It was very hard.
The trust was built over time. Sounds like.
Very slowly, but we got there.
Well, that's the best way,
Right?
So what about the guy? Did he phase out, or did he hang around? Once you're 18 now.
He phased out.
Okay.
He ended up getting in some trouble himself, and he is now in prison.
Okay.
So, but he has tried to contact me and everything. He's tried to wiggle his way back in, but standing strong, and he's supposed to be getting out in like a few months or so. One of his friends told me when I ran into them at the grocery store, but I just really want him to just stay away. Like, get my hand. I am getting a restraining order on him just because of some of the stuff that he put me through, and I just don't even want to risk that again.
Yeah.
I don't want to risk my family or put them through any of that.
Right. And you're engaged now, right?
Oh, I'm married.
Oh, you're married.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I don't know why I even said that. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, you're so young.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
You're married. So he knows everything about you, your story, and the guy, and it sounds like, are you confident in his ability to protect you and everything?
For sure, because he's kind of went through something similar in life. Like, his dad passed away when he was younger. Drugs and everything's been prominent in his life. His mom was in it. She's good now and everything too. So he kind of understands my past and everything. I think that might have what brought us together.
Yeah. Wow. To be able to relate to each other's experience and connect.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure it's hard in a way to allow yourself to connect with people after you've been through so much.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I had friends, but I never really opened up to anybody. Even the guy I was dating, like, really the only reason I was with them was the drugs. And honestly, like, I thought at the time I loved them just because I wanted to be loved so desperately for not having it for so long. But once I realized, when I got sober, just took out the equation of him, the drugs and everything, and was able to like look at all of it, I realized that was not what I wanted at all. Like, he was way older than me. No one approved of it. It was very wrong. But
and so, was this time when you were in residential when you realized?
Yes, when I went to
when you were plucked out of the environment.
Yeah, when I was plucked out, that's when I realized something's got to change, because what I was doing wasn't going to get me anywhere but either following my dad or my mom's footsteps. So,
well, also, you can't control the guy, him. You know, I mean, you were putting things behind you, it sounds like, in kind of evolving into sobriety. But then you didn't know what he was doing. He was probably still using.
Yep.
So the last thing you would probably want to do for your own sobriety would be in relationship with him.
For sure. When I came back the first time from the START program, he had told me that he went to like this rehab and everything, and he was doing good too. And then that's when I was like, okay, so you said you went to rehab, you said you're doing good, okay, let's try this out again. And not even a month into it, he started using around me, and that slowly brought me back into it. And because when I first met him, I was 15 about, and he was 20, and I didn't do anything like heavy or anything like that. I was just starting out using, just partying and stuff like that, never on a regular basis. And he's the one who really introduced me to like heroin and stuff like that. So
what can you kind of clarify the drugs, like what did it start with, and then what did it evolve into?
Yeah, for sure. So first it started just me smoking pot with my friends, and then slowly turned into taking Xanax. And then after that it turned into me popping like oxys and Percocets and stuff like that. And that turned into the heroin, and I probably was doing a lot of fentanyl without even realizing it. Like, I'm really lucky when I think about it today, because I could have easily died. Like, you don't know what people are putting in that stuff anymore.
Absolutely.
It's scary. My friend just passed away recently from an overdose, and it's tough. It's really tough, especially from being with them for so long. And you want to help them, you do, but as being in recovery, I have to keep a safe distance too for myself, because I've got a daughter now, and I do not want to put her through anything that I went through growing up.
So how are you able to lead a sober lifestyle, and what does that look like for you?
Well, for me, everyone's different with how they find their sobriety and stuff. Some people go to meetings regularly, go to church and stuff like that. For me, it's just having the right people around me, like the ones that support me wholeheartedly and I can talk to about things like that, because some days are hard. Some days you get those cravings and you just want to, especially with the little kid, like, it gets hard. Yes, it gets really stressful, but I just talk to who I need to talk to. My mom is my best friend. We talk about everything, so she's really the best one to talk to about stuff like that. And just getting it off your chest, because if I was bad about bottling feelings, and that's where a lot of me blowing up and everything, because there's only so much you can stuff before it just
overflows.
Yes, for sure. So I've gotten a lot better with talking, and my husband's really good with helping me too. So it's just really for me talking.
Wow.
That's what I really need to do.
So even though it looks like, it's just bliss, like, you have your moments where you...
Oh, for sure.
Where you are tempted or you are craving and stuff.
Yes, and it's crazy too, because it can come out of nowhere. You can have no desire for it, and then all of a sudden just a memory, a smell, a picture, and it just will take you right back into that zone.
Yeah. Did they teach you about cravings that, they don't last for long?
Yeah, they did. The START program was more addiction based, so they taught a lot about that. The RP program was for like all different kinds of girls, like addiction, domestic violence, and stuff like that. So they would do like classes. So if you had a history of addiction, you would have to take classes towards it. So they taught us like all the triggers and how to maintain it and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, wow, that is a lot. With regard to your grief and your trauma that you went through with your friend accidentally killing himself, how do you take care of yourself in that way, and how do you heal? Like, what has happened for you to kind of move
honestly, when
through
it
that?
first happened, I didn't do anything to try to heal any of my pain or trauma, but really for me is I just have to let myself feel it. Like, I've got to let myself sit in the grief, cry it out, scream, yell, whatever to get through it, because even when I try to like put on a brave face or something like that, that just makes it worse for me, because me personally, I have to work through it then and there, because if I try to push it aside, it's just going to bring those old feelings up of, okay, let me numb myself and stuff like that. So I got to feel whatever it is right then and there and work through it.
Wow. You really just made a connection that honestly I had not pondered, but that, you know, this is what I share with my clients and students, is that grief, there's no way else to deal other than actually feeling it.
Yep.
You know, and if you stuff it, if you ignore it, it just comes out later. And it can even come out in the middle of a grocery store.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So to give yourself time to scream, yell, fight, cry. But what you're connecting is that if you don't, you even have another layer of where the stakes are so high, and that it could lead to then the cravings for numbing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another thing is, like, with grief, there's no time limit on grief, and you could be fine for like a year or two, and then just one day it hits you like a ton of bricks. But even with that, like, some days with my dad, it's hard, especially around like anniversaries and birthdays. So I've made sure to take days like that off. Like, if I have to work or anything, I'll take that day off so I can spend it with myself. So if I have any tough feelings, I can work through it, or even if I'm okay, so I can still spend the day self-help, because taking care of myself is most important.
Even as a mother, that importance has even gotten stronger. It sounds like you've got to.
I have to, because if it's so easy to let yourself slip away in motherhood and everything and just let it consume you and that be all you do. But you have to take time for you to actually be healthy, to be the best mom you can be the best person you can be. You've got to take time for yourself. That is very important, taking you time.
Yeah, I think it's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for a lot of people to acknowledge, say, they need a personal day. You know, a lot of people might relate that to weakness, even though it's not. It's strong. It's having foresight. It's wise. But they don't do it. Even doctors. I've been to conferences where, like, doctors are some of the worst at taking care of themselves.
I've heard that.
It's that old school thinking of just push through, be strong, don't talk about it.
Yep. I was one of those people. Like,
Really?
I never liked crying or anything like that. I just tried to push through and not show any weakness, and that's a lot of my problems stem from.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really look to help people with, is empowering them, like, you are strong. Like, the fact that you're talking about your feelings
Makes you strong.
Yeah, the fact that you're addressing them is responsible. And, you know, just really promoting that and reducing the stigma of, like, counseling and mental health and all of that.
Yeah, especially because growing up, my dad was like a macho man and everything like that.
You see it, yeah.
They don't want to show their emotions or talk about anything, but that probably led with a lot of his inner demons, and the reason why he felt he had to take his life, because he felt like he didn't need to talk about it or shouldn't, because he had to remain strong or whatever. But no matter what, I think that's one of the most important things, is to talk about what you're going through, because it's just going to keep eating at you and eating at you if you don't. And it's hard. I get it. Like, I get that 100%. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to bring out those feelings because you don't want to feel them. But feelings the only way you're going to get through it.
Amen. Absolutely. And you know, with statistics, I don't know if you knew this, but especially in the state of Alabama, males make up most of the numbers of suicides that have been completed in the state, and most of those are by firearm.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I think it speaks to your point that sometimes it's even harder for men, you know, to talk about their feelings and to get help because they're conditioned socially to suck it
Be the
up.
strong man, yep. Like, I always encourage my husband to tell me how you feel, let's talk through it, because he was like that when we first got together. Like, didn't want to talk about stuff and everything, but just a little pushing, and I got him to open up and everything. So, and he's like better at talking now than me. Like, he'll sit us down and be like, okay, so I noticed you had a little bit of an attitude about this, what's wrong, and stuff like that. So that's really good, and I'm so grateful for that.
He can read you non-verbally too.
He can read me.
That's so good. I've read in a couple's book, like that's really good that y'all can read each other and check in. Yeah,
it's great to have someone to keep you accountable and help you through your feelings and everything. That's very important too, to have someone to keep you accountable throughout everything, no matter grief, addiction, whatever. Just having someone that you know, no matter what, isn't going to cave to you and just be there for you and tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's just one person, you know, and so find that person.
Yeah.
It could be a counselor, you know? It could be. You know, I mean,
Miss
some
Melissa
people...
was my person for a long time. She was my person.
Melissa is one of my favorite people.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And she's so real and just, like, just takes you where you are right then. Doesn't expect...
And she will tell you exactly how she feels, when she feels it, and why she feels it.
Yes. It's people like that that are authentic and transparent that you can actually build that connection with, you know?
Yeah.
It
she
takes
could see
courage.
right through me.
Sounds like you like that tough love a little bit.
That tough love's the only thing that really works with me.
Yeah. Oh, well, it works. I mean, especially combo of love plus those natural consequences that support can help change a young person's life forever, you know?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Well, we're getting a little signal that we need to wrap it up. He's about to break the cord. I could talk to you for a lot longer, but I really appreciate you, Hannah. I know it took courage to show up. I know it did, and your story is inspirational because you have been through hell and back. It sounds like. Is there anything else you wanted to say or leave our listeners with as we sign out?
Yeah, just one little thing.
Okay.
So I know a problem with a lot of young kids these days is thinking that they have friends like in the streets and like with the gangs and stuff like that because they hear it on music, TV, or whatever, and it glorifies it. But I just want to let you know from the heart, from someone who's been through it, that that's not real love. People who see you going through probably the worst time of your life, willing to give you drugs or whatever to help you numb your pain or whatever you're doing, those aren't people who truly love you. If they truly loved you, they would make you get up and do what you needed to do to get yourself back on track to be a better you.
Yes.
Because I dealt with a lot of that with the drugs and everything. People you thought were your best friends, but really just someone using with you. Because when you get home and you're sober, the only thing that person wants to know is if you want to go get high with them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so hard for people in that, especially, you know, maybe people who haven't learned the hard lessons yet. They're lost.
For sure.
And they're searching, you know, and it can appear that you have a really, really loyal, great friend, but the truth is that when you're in addiction, the main thing is the drug. And you will be selfish all day long to get it.
That's really it.
So that person might have potential, but they're not going to give you what you really need.
Yeah, not until they're clean, you're clean, you can actually be around each other without a substance involved, like something that brings y'all together other than drugs.
Right. Well, Hannah, I appreciate you showing up also with, Red Ribbon Week. That was a few weeks ago. One of the biggest campaigns combating substance abuse. It's real. It happens. It's very prevalent, especially in our youth as well. And there are more and more people that are using not just to party, but to cope. And like you said, that temptation to numb, but you are living proof that there is a better, brighter way. Is it easy?
No, not at all.
No?
Not at all.
But
it's worth it.
It's so worth it.
It is so worth it. Like, I thought life was going to be so boring, being clean and everything, but it's better. It's way better. You have way more fun being clean, like not having to worry about waking up the next day being sick because you don't have what you want. You can enjoy life. It's so much better.
Do you have any hopes and dreams as you move through young adulthood as far as your purpose?
Yeah, I've always been big on like sharing my testimony and stuff like that. I want to do something helping other young girls. Me and my mom have talked about it, like maybe building a house or something, or a little rehab for young adults to go to and get the help they need, and just help however way we can, because we've been through it. We know how hard it is and how easy it is to get sucked back into that, so we want to try to do something to help however we can.
Yeah, that's neat, because I have a real passion for teenagers, and I recently talked with Virginia Guy from the Drug Education Council, and she expressed, like, we're really lacking when it comes to residential support for teenagers in addiction or mental health.
Oh, for sure.
And she's wanting to do something about it, so I think we'll be in touch moving forward.
I like that.
I
like
do.
that.
All right. Well, Hannah, thanks again. And listeners, we're going to sign out on that note. And hopefully this podcast was really, really encouraging for you. We wish you the very best. And goodbye. Bye.